Okay, so I have changed quite a bit, haven't I? But you know, so have the famous faces that we're meeting this week. But we have one thing in common. We were all lucky enough to be choristers. So this week I catch up with conductor Sir Mark Elder, David Lammy MP and wine expert Ollie Smith to chat to them about their chorister days with music from some of the very best choristers from across the British Isles. When I look back at my time as a chorister in Bangor Cathedral, I not only remember the wonderful music I was fortunate to sing, but also that glorious building I was in. Mind you, it wasn't quite as glorious as this one. That time as a chorister is very dear to my heart, and I'm looking forward to meeting others who shared a similar experience and finding out how it shaped their lives. Still today, thousands of choristers don their choir robes to lead the worship in all sorts of buildings, from rural churches to grand cathedrals like this one, and we'll feature some of them today. But our first hymn comes from Beverley Minster, where the choristers there lead the congregation in a hymn that celebrates everyone's love of singing. It's Angel Voices. Before we hear from our other guests, I caught up with my good friend Simon Loll, who was a chorister here at St Paul's Cathedral and later Director of Music at Salisbury Cathedral, to chat about all things chorister. So this is it, isn't it? The nerve centre, I suppose, of choral music in the cathedral.
Yeah, this is where it all happens, all the hard work, music around the walls, the piano.
Yeah, all the congregation sees the angelic bit, and this is the graft.
Yep, this is it. This is where all the hard work happens, day after day, morning, evening.
Why is it that when you do speak to choristers these days, they say, oh, what I learnt as a chorister stayed with me all my life?
Well, I mean, it's an interesting thing, isn't it? I mean, it is so special because obviously there's a remarkable musical discipline. You learn so much musically, and you're doing it all the time. So you're infused with this technique. But I mean, there's so much more. You learn about things like punctuality. You know, heaven forbid if you're late for choir practice, you must have been there when you were late and the choir master.
I'd usually be dodging the hymn books as they were thrown at me, actually.
It's interesting how you grow in confidence and an ability day after day. You get to know the music. I mean, I remember when I first came here and all these big boys singing all this beautiful music, I felt completely out of my depth. I mean, it's weird, isn't it?
It is that feeling of being totally lost at the beginning. I remember my first rehearsal in a choir room, a bit smaller than this one in Bangor, but everything was a little bit smaller in Bangor, and sort of following the musical notes as they moved with my finger, and not really knowing what was happening, and thinking, what have I done? Simon's chorister training stood him in good stead when he became Director of Music at Salisbury, inheriting the first cathedral girls' choir in the country.
Could you just make sure that's a nice warm crescendo on that? It's something I've championed for many years, and I believe so strongly in girls singing in cathedral choirs. I mean, why not?
I don't think I would have concentrated so much on the singing if there'd been a gorgeous girl standing next to me, even at the age of 11.
I went back to the cathedral last year to celebrate 20 years and it's amazing. And they're now breaking through into the university world, into the professional singing world, and it's fantastic to see.
There's a saying, isn't there? Once a chorister, always a chorister. Do you think it's true?
Yeah, I think it's absolutely true. I mean, all the people I meet in all sorts of walks of life who've been choristers always look back very fondly on the experience. And often, it doesn't matter, you know, I chose to make music my profession, but there have been so many people that have been successful in other walks of life and who've used a lot of the experiences of being a chorister and translated that into their professional lives. And it's helped them enormously, really.
World-renowned conductor Sir Mark Elder was a chorister at Canterbury Cathedral in the 1950s, which meant heading off to choir school at a very early age.
Now, I was 8 when I went, and I remember begging not to be sent. I remember crying for the first few nights, for the first few terms. And of course it was a very difficult thing to do, to pull a family apart. But I think I soon realized that there was going to be great excitement. You see, the job of being a chorister is not just fun. There is fun attached to it, but actually it's work. It's learning how to be responsible. It's learning how to appear in public day after day and perform, to walk with the right grace and the right speed. And we used to have secret processing lessons in the cathedral at night when nobody else was there. The musical list came out once every 2 weeks, I seem to remember. We used to rush after service and try and see what was written up and what we were going to do. And of course, we were all drama queens in the making at that age. We all wanted to see how many solos there would be and who was going to get the solo. He did it last time, perhaps I'll get it this time. Oh, we were little divas. Terrible. When I find myself conducting specifically sacred music, as opposed to religious music, deeply spiritual music, and the Dream of Gerontius is a very good example of that, the experience I had as a chorister undoubtedly informs how I feel conducting it. But there's something else. There's a sense of being in touch with something on another level. I very often think that I owe my career in music to the fact that my parents organized that I should be a chorister. As the years go by, I'm more and more convinced that there is some energy, higher power, connecting the events of our life together. And I think it was a wonderful present, actually, that I should have been given this chance to open my ears, open my heart, and get me in some state where I could start to face the rest of my life.